You see the snowing and blowing out there? This is what I woke up to. All my windows are covered. We got about 1.5 feet of snow now that I've been out there. Drifts are about 3 to 4 feet. So in order to let my chickens out and give them some food this morning, I had to trudge through snow up to my thighs, which was fun. It wasn't too bad though. I bundled up good. But what I wanted to talk to you about today as we watch the blowing snow is why I regret not joining a union. About 25 years ago, I started working at our local hospital as a medical transcriptionist. At the time, it was an amazing opportunity. The agreement was $9 an hour to start. Remember, this was in 1990 something. And that was a little less than what I was already making. But after 3 months, they would review. It would be like a probation period. If I did well, then I would be bumped to being paid per line. I'm a really fast typist, and as a medical transcriptionist, you use word expansion software, which means for every phrase or sentence or even paragraph that a doctor would say the exact same way every time, I could type 3 keys and the whole sentence would pop up on my screen. For instance, say the patient is a 21-year-old white male. I would type in TPIA, the patient is a 21 YOWM, year-old white male. So like for, I don't know how many letters that is, but for those letters, that entire phrase would pop up just by hitting the space bar. So I made really good money. I was going to make really good money. The first time I got screwed over by the hospital was they gave me my 3-month review. And let's see if I can get those trees more. Not really. I got a really good review. I was falling within standards. My speed was good. My accuracy was good. And I asked them, so now I can be bumped up to per line rate, and they said, we'll see. Well, we'll see lasted for another 6 months. By that time, I was getting pretty pissed off. And so I went to during the 6 months, like every month, I would go to my supervisor and say, hey, what about that line rate pay? Hey, what about that line rate pay? Have you considered my line rate pay? And she'd blow me off every time. So about the 9-month mark, I had had enough. I went over her head. I emailed her supervisor. And I said, look, when I was hired, I was guaranteed to be bumped to line rate. Now, you got to understand, I was making $9 an hour on this probationary period, but I was averaging my lines, so I knew how much I should be making. I should have been making between $24 and $28 an hour. So she was pretty much stealing money out of my pocket just to protect her budget, and that was not fair. So that's why I went over her head. And the next week, I was bumped to line rate. She wasn't too happy about it, my boss, but too bad. She was stealing out of my pocket for 6 months. I had 2 kids to feed. I was a single mom. That wasn't right. Okay, so that was the first time I got screwed over. Second time, I wish you could see this better. It's really blowing. The snow is really light and powdery, so that's good. But okay, the second time I got screwed over, like I said, I was a single mom, 2 kids. I was divorced. My kids were, at this time, about 8 and 9 and 10. They're 14 months apart. So they were still in elementary school. And all of the transcriptionists in my department received an email, you will have to work 1 overnight shift every 2 weeks. This was because they couldn't find anyone to work third shift, understandably. And kudos to anybody who does work third shift. I am so sorry you have to do that. So, I called my supervisor and I explained my situation. I said, look, I have 2 young kids. I have to be up at 6 in the morning to get them ready for the bus. There's no way. He said, get a doctor's note. So I did. I got a doctor's note saying that it would affect my health, having to stay up until 3:30 in the morning, and then getting up at 6 to get my kids on the bus. And it would ruin my sleep cycle for the next 2 weeks until I had to do it again. I gave the doctor's note to my supervisor, and do you know what he said to me? We don't have to take that. And I said, well, legally, don't you have to? And he said, no, we checked with legal already. So for almost a year, I worked third shift one night every 2 weeks. I gained about 20 pounds. I was cranky all the time. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. Not only that, but the next day, okay, so I worked until 3 in the morning, went to bed, got up at 6. I didn't get to bed until like 3:30 after all was said and done. I'd get up at 6, get my kids ready for school, get them on the bus. I'd go back to bed, and my supervisor scheduled me for an 11 o'clock shift the next morning. So I couldn't even get a full 8 hours. So I stuck with that for a while, and then a couple years later, we received an email from our department head saying they were changing the way line rates were calculated. And to all you transcriptionists out there, if your department head says that, look out. Because what they did, we were paid per line. They were going to pay us per character and not pay us whenever we hit the space bar. Doesn't sound like much, but it turned out to be a 1/3 pay cut. 1/3 of our pay was now gone with no explanation, no I'm sorry, nothing. I emailed our department supervisor and she said, talk to your supervisor. So I did, and he said, yep, that's the way it is, nothing we can do. So they screwed with my life by putting me on third shift once. See, if you're on third shift all the time, your body adjusts and you can, maybe not completely, but you can at least schedule your sleep so you get enough sleep. But when you're thrown off one night every 2 weeks, by the time you recover, it's time to do it again. And now, the reason for the title of this video. While I was on probation, a union rep from the state medical transcriptionist union came to our office and requested to speak to all of us. Before they did, our big head boss came over and warned us about how they're like the mafia and they'll threaten people and they'll take all our money and blah, blah, all those stereotypical lies that companies tell employees about unions. We bought it. We didn't sign up with a union. Well, let me tell you what. All of these things I told you about happened after we refused to join the union. If we had joined the union, I don't think they would have dared treat us the way they did. They might have somewhat, but not as blatantly in your face. Here, this is what we're going to do, and too bad. Sucks to be you. So if I had it all over again, I would join that union so fast, it would make your head spin. And moral of the story is, your company, the company that you work for, unless you are an incredibly blessed individual, does not care about you. They care about money. They care about what their bosses say, and they care about what the corporation says. That's all they care about. You are just a cog in the wheel. And if you want something that doesn't benefit them, forget about it. It's not going to happen. So I'm sorry for a negative video, but I just wanted to get that out there because this has chapped my hide for, oh my God, since I quit. Well, longer than that, since it happened. So like for 20 years, I've been stewing on this stuff. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't say anything. I had to go along with it. So, yeah. So if you have a chance in your profession to join a union, there's nothing wrong with them. They are good. They protect your benefit. They work for your benefit. They might be a little pricey, but if that protects you, look at that. That's the snow blowing off my roof. But if the union protects your pay so you don't take a 1/3 pay cut, by all means, it is so worth it. So this is Michelle in the blizzard of 2017. And I'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful day. I hope this helps somebody.